You are watching Eswatini TV. Sibuko seMaswati. The word professionalism is what you can use to describe what has hit some of the well-known clubs in the Southern Africa regions, that being Young Buffaloes and Kaizer Chiefs. Hello and welcome. What a beautiful Monday. It's going to be on your usual program here, live on Eswatini TV. Temidlalo, as usual. The date today is 22nd of February. The year is 2020. A couple of issues, of course, to take center stage this evening as we look at, to cut across what has been the main issue behind the delayed departure of Young Buffaloes. And of course, this is not an issue that you are facing only as a country at hand. It has also been faced by another country next door, that is the Republic of South Africa, where Kaizer Chiefs also they find themselves in a similar situation. We'll touch on that. We'll be in the assistance, in the company of someone who is an expert, that is Mahlatse Mphahlele from the Republic of South Africa, who is a well-known reporter for Sunday Times. We just get the ins and out of his expertise and to tell us about other thing that has actually been, of course, of the highlights pertaining to the sporting activity. When we talk about Mr. Mphahlele, we talk about a reporter who has covered issues of rugby, issues of cricket, golf, to name a few. But this time around, he's also going to give us an insight of what maybe also the pandemic has far as caused for the sport industry. Otherwise, we will know that for the International Olympic Committee, we know that issues are still ongoing. Eswatini Olympic Commonwealth Games Association is expected to host its elections on the 9th of March. Candidates have been put on the list. We talk about those candidates, and today we have actually begun on a journey to speak to one-on-one with some of the candidates on different positions. Today we'll be in touch with Pearl Dlamini, who is running for VP, Vice President for the position. Otherwise, in the company of Linda Dlamini, our in-house analyst and in-house expert, will dwell so much, of course, on what's happening for the local giants, the local envoys, Young Buffaloes, who, as we speak, are already in the capital city of Tunisia, Tunis, to give us, a return match representing the country. I'm already in the company of Linda Dlamini. Nguvusele Nkosi.
Fabrice Sbalwam, welcome back. It's a Monday.
Yes.
Ngitithola ukukhuluma uselama loyal viewers ekhaya. The viewers bakhumbulele kakhulu Fabrice.
Yes.
It's been long.
Yes, that's the seats. First time ngubona in 2021 Nkosi.
Yeah, my holidays are aphelile Fabrice.
Yeah.
Back at work.
Yes, we're trying all the means, to be in touch with Mr. Mahlatse Mphahlele, all the way from Republic of South Africa. Is a reporter, like I just mentioned, Mr. One of the well-known journalists, well-vested journalists.
Award-winning journalist.
And award-winning journalist, indeed. When we talk about issues of not only reporting on football, not only reporting on golf, but we talk about a well-vested journalist in terms of different issues pertaining to sports on the continent.
More especially Fabrice, utawathola lawo ma-stories ku Sunday Times. Lesihlale siwabona la liyathengiswa ke nalakhaya. Inkumbi yoMaswati ayamati ayalandzela ama-stories akhe la wendako la wabhalako. So ngicabanga ukuthi even nalabangamati batawuva ukuthi who is he, uqale kanjani kuba sports journalist in South Africa. But nje njoba ngishilo ukuthi Maswati inkumbi ayamati.
But Master, we're trying to connect as we speak right now. We're trying to speak to him, connecting through Zoom, and I'm just going to check if he's right now available to talk to us. Mr. Mphahlele, are you already there? Can you speak to you? Can you hear me? I think for now there's a short challenge, of course, with the connection. Maybe we'll take a short break as we're trying to connect to him and be able to speak to him. And we'll return after the break once we've been able to speak to him directly where he is in the Republic of South Africa after a short break. But seemingly the break, we have to wait a bit. Seemingly our technicians have found a way to break through. Can you be able to get me, Mr. Mphahlele? Good evening, sir. All right, we take that short break, of course, as our technicians and our in-house engineers are trying to connect through this interview with Mr. Mphahlele. Our well-known regional, I would say, as well, not only the Republic of South Africa, but regional, well-vested reporter. We'll take a short break. After the break, we carry on with the interview.
There's so much to learn and see in the kingdom of Eswatini.
Futhi sikhuthatha kona ukuthi nawe wathi live lapho kabandi nalokuhle lokwendekako lapha evenini la kaNgwane. Namambalo uyabona mbukeli ukuthi indalo is a beautiful thing. Ubumkhulu baNkulunkulu buyabonakala ngendalo.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience in the kingdom.
Once again, welcome back for being with us for this evening edition of Temidlalo. Just to remind you as a viewer, if you just join us, the different platforms, of course, where you can watch this program live. You can join us on YouTube, where we are live, of course, from 9 p.m. every Monday. And of course, for those who have your school journey, that's another advantage. I'm already in the company of Linda Dlamini. Linda Dlamini, before we took a break, of course, we highlighted the issue at hand. We talked about the issue of young buffaloes being the main topic, of course, and we've also mentioned that there is a country somewhere who is our neighbor, where they have a similar team that is facing a similar situation. So we are going to be in touch with, of course, one of the well-known journalists, a well-vested, an expert when it comes to such issues, and talk about an award-winning journalist. Master, before maybe I introduce him, one or two things you can once again highlight, because I think this is the road you're heading to also as a local journalist.
Fabrice ngicabanga sike sasho before ukuthi yena Mr Mphahlele ucover cishe not only football kuphela rugby, cricket, and uyathi ke ukuthi mina ne cricket ngithanda kanganani yena luckily ucover cricket ya South Africa le professional ukhuluma nge master players akhona bo Rabada bo Quentin de Kock bo Duplessis. So ngicabanga ukuthi bona even na rugby rugby sakhumbula even though siya Koliso iphakamisile le World Cup lephelile. Ngicabanga ukuthi bona banenhlanhla ukuthi ba ku professional tsine sakhuluma ukuthi ku professional sisakhona in terms of kuma sports.
All right, now without wasting any time, I'm being joined on Zoom through Zoom in by Mphahlele all the way from the Republic of South Africa. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers, and thanks very much for having me.
Thank you very much for your time, and of course for the viewers here local in the Kingdom of Eswatini, they have an advantage most of the time to read your stories on the papers, and then those who have a chance, they do read some of the stories online. And of course we just going to have a short discussion here. I'm in the company with one of our local analysts, Temidlalo, but maybe just for those who love reading your articles, and then those who watch, who read your articles even online, and they're asking themselves, now they have seen your picture, now they have been wondering, following you on social media. Just a short background, just to tell them, who is Mr. Mphahlele, and to become such a big journalist in this industry, where does it come from?
Firstly, I must say that you are very generous by calling me a big journalist. I think, I've tried to make a contribution.
Yes.
But as to who I am, my name is Mphahlele. I live in Pretoria. That's where I'm speaking you from. You have been, I've been put in contact with you through a very good friend of mine, Mr. Faguze, who I've known for many, many, many years, and we have traveled this long road together. As journalists for many, many, many years. Like I'm saying, someone who's a good friend of mine. I've been a journalist for many years. I finished school in 1999 at college where I studied media studies. And I worked as a junior reporter at the Pretoria News, which is a local regional newspaper here in Pretoria. I worked there for about 5 years. And I moved. I went to work for the Sunday Times, which is arguably the biggest Sunday newspaper in the country. And I stayed there for about 3 years, and I left journalism for a while. I was, for 2 years, a communication and media officer at Mamelodi Sundowns, which you guys would know is one of the biggest clubs in South Africa. And in 2009, I left Sundowns to work for FIFA. I was a FIFA media officer for the 2009 Confed Cup, 2010 World Cup, and in 2013 I was a CAF media officer for the 2013 World Cup. Africa Cup of Nations, which was hosted by South Africa, and it was won by Nigeria. And after that, I went back to journalism, and this is what I've been doing since the end of the Cup of Nations in 2013 and up to now. So you can say that I've been around for quite a while, yeah.
I think from just your short background you just gave us, maybe for the viewer, they might think maybe your expertise are only, on a football note. And then I think when you talk about FIFA, serving at FIFA standard, we serve at CAF standard, of which me and my colleague, there are questions we will be talking about pertaining to this issue, to say really, is CAF maybe somehow allegedly corrupted, like the way people are thinking outside there? Maybe we get to that, but is the person we're talking to right now, is Mr. Mphahlele another type of journalist who has covered also other sporting code, the passion for journalism?
Yeah, I always tell the younger journalists who are coming through that covering school sports, it may look not glamorous, but that's why I started. As you know, the history of many black people. Football come naturally to us. I'm sure you guys growing up playing football, it's the same as me. I played football at high school, I played football at college, and all those kinds of things. I was never really exposed to cricket and rugby at an early age. But when I started working, through some of the senior people who I worked with at that time, you must remember it was during the early 2000s when South Africa as a country was beginning to change, whereby young black people were supposed to be given opportunities. There was a big, a big word which was commonly used in South Africa of affirmative action. My boss had the foresight at that time. I was still young. I was a little bit naive. I didn't see it that way. To say rugby and cricket in future is going to need black players, is going to need black administrators, is going to need black journalists. So he took it upon himself. My former sports editor, his name is Mr. Lester Mills. May he so rest in peace because he has since passed on. He taught me cricket. He taught me rugby. He taught me hockey. I had an understanding of football, athletic, and boxing. That is why I'm able to go to a cricket match and understand what's going on there. I also cover Super Rugby. I cover Springboks. In 2018, I was on tour with the Springboks to Australia and New Zealand. I've been away with Bafana Bafana. I've been away with under 23s. I've been away with with the cricket, the Proteas. So I've done all variety of sports because despite the fact that the opportunities were there for me to do them, but also from my side personally, there was that drive to say maybe it's important that I must learn something which I didn't know, growing up as a young man. I grew up with football and softball generally, which are the sports that we mainly played at high school. And, tennis, cricket, rugby, sports which I never really do. It's sports that I only knew when I was at college, after having left high school. I knew about them, but I never really followed them. But now, you can say I do have a thorough understanding of all the sports across the board.
Wow. It's quite overwhelming, of course, such a huge experience. I think I'm in the company of someone who also has the same passion with you. I think towards the end, I'll give him 2 or 3 questions to ask you. When you talk about rugby and cricket, and I think my next question maybe is to look at, if you look at the standard that has been set by the Proteas, to look at the Springbok in the region, especially, talk about the SADC region. What do you think maybe other countries can do also to improve the standard? You talk about your Eswatini, you talk about Lesotho. Maybe when you talk about Zimbabwe, when it comes to cricket, they have a standard also on their own. But there is a bit of growth that maybe other countries can try to tap into, comparing to where Proteas and the Springboks have been so far.
Yeah, I think what needs to happen, especially if you look at in football, they call our region COSAFA, SADC in politics. I think maybe most of the countries need to approach Cricket South Africa or SA Rugby to sit down and ask for advices as to how can they set up grassroots development structures of how respective countries can grow the sports of rugby and cricket. I do believe that I'm quite certain that you can come to Eswatini and find very good cricketers and very good rugby players. You can go to Lesotho, you can go. Zimbabwe has proved in the past that they can produce those players to a large extent because of the challenges that they have in the country. Sports there is not really flourishing as it should. I mean, in South Africa, South Africa, the Springboks have just not so long ago won a World Cup with a player from Zimbabwe in Bisim Tawarira, which means that how many Bisim Tawariras can you go if you really look properly? Can you find in Zimbabwe? In cricket, we know what Zimbabwe can do. Zimbabwe has played cricket for many, many years. So I think the countries that have got an interest in rugby and cricket needs to take the initiative, come to South Africa, or maybe South Africa comes there to come and speak to the officials there to see how the structures can be put in place. I've been very impressed with the level of rugby that has been played by Namibia. Namibia at the moment, most of, or maybe not most, but here and there we do have 1 or 2 very, very, very talented up-and-coming good players from Namibia who are playing for in the Currie Cup here, in the Vodacom Cup here, or even some of the Super Rugby teams, which means that the players are there. You just need to have the structures in place to ensure that young, promising players who have got an appetite for those sports are given opportunities. Yeah.
In the interest of time, I'll move on quickly. And I think another aspect that maybe, which I'll give my colleague maybe the platform to ask you, when it comes to women's sport, we've been talking about gender also being given a platform. There's a lot to talk about. There is a specific question I think he has when it comes to women's sports. Mr. Lamni, this is a chance we can ask him a question.
Yeah, Mr. Mpahlele, how are you, sir? There's one question I want to ask you, maybe or 2. How is the relationship between you and the other sport journalists like Abotiana Mabasa, Lunga Adams, BPK, your Thomas Kwenaite? And the second question is, you've worked at Mamelodi Sundowns as a media officer. Now Patrice Motsepe wants to be CAF president. Can he change African football?
To start with your first question, I mean, we work in the same industry. Some of the guys that you mentioned, I work with BBK now with the Sunday Times, because I also do work with the Sunday Times. Diana was a friend of mine. It's very strange because I was actually speaking to him on the phone there sometime today, discussing other issues. Someone like Thomas Gwanite. Thomas Gwanite is my senior. Thomas Gwanite, me and a group of journalists we came into the system at the same time. Guys like Thomas Gwanite, Billy Cooper, Kolum Chazo, those who came before us are the people who mentored us. I've got a lot of respect for Pratike. He's one a knowledgeable person in this industry. I was very happy when recently he was inducted on the South African Journalism Hall of Fame because of the contribution he has made. I look up to him, but not only him, but those people or those journalists who came before us, who guided us when we were young and still fresh from school and trying to follow our dream of becoming journalists. They've really played a huge role. When it comes to Mr. Patrice Motsepe running for CAF, I think he will be a breath of fresh air. We all know how CAF has been run for many, many, many years. There's been a lot of problems at that organization. Maybe somebody who comes with a background of having been successful in business, but not only in business. I mean, you look at how he has been able to transform Mamelodi Sundowns. I know that partly also is because he's got deep pockets where Sundowns is able to buy players, and he has supported the dream of making Sundowns one of the best teams of the continent. Going back to the issue, I think he will definitely be a breath of fresh air. I hope that he gets that opportunity to lead, so that we can at least try and do something different. Because most of the people who have been there, they have not really. Yes.
Can we call you Zizo?
Well, the research has been done. Yes.
Well, the name is Zizo. You can call me Zizo. We used to have a media league in Johannesburg. Some of the journalists, I think it was on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. We used to go out and play football on the league, and they used to call me Zizo. It's just largely because of what I used to do on the field. I'm not a bad player at all. That's why the name comes from here. So yeah. No, I'm sure you can call me Zizo, no problem with that.
All right. Now, Mr. Zizo, of course, that's the name already we're using now. We can use that, isn't it? I'm looking at now the politics surrounding the football industry. I think you did mention that in your biography that you did at some point work for CAF and you're involved in logistics and everything. It's not a secret. You have a situation at hand in the Republic of South Africa with Kaizer Chiefs, but maybe I'll make the similar example with our local team here called Young Buffaloes. I think they were scheduled to leave the country on Thursday to play a return game in Tunis, but they ended up arriving today and the game playing tomorrow. You and I knowing the logistics within FIFA, the 48 hours, that is not being done. In most cases, you having been with CAF, when a situation at hand like this presents itself, what is the stand of CAF? How do you call this in itself, you as an expert? Sometimes there is the politics we like using as this region to say maybe those up there in the north, they are playing mind games. Do you see that at hand as well? What's going on currently?
Yeah, I guess it's not only a situation which is affecting your team. I mean, here in South Africa, we have a serious problem with the Kaizer Chiefs. They were supposed to play against Wydad, I think 2 weeks ago. That may still happen. Now it's going to be taking place in Burkina Faso this weekend. Sundowns having the same problem with the Algerian team. They were actually told on the day they were supposed to be leaving that they cannot leave. That is despite the fact that they were actually, given, visas to travel. Chiefs, the Moroccan authorities gave them a serious runaround for a number of days. When they were trying to apply for visas, they didn't make it clear the Moroccan authorities they won't get visas, but they led them on, making them to believe that actually they'll get the visas, but in the last minute, they were not given the visas. And it is a situation in which I think CAF has made a huge mess of it. they should have tried to control it to ensure that, given the strict, health and safety protocols due to COVID-19 in some of these countries. What do we do when it's like that? Because I think if they were proactive enough, Chiefs could have played with Casablanca in Burkina Faso 2 weeks ago. Sundowns could have played, this Algerian team in Tanzania as they are going to play them this weekend. But also for Sundowns, it's a problem because Sundowns, they are in the last 16 of the Nedbank Cup here in South Africa, which is on Saturday. So which means now the PSL will have to find a way on how they are going to accommodate that game because Sundowns will be away playing Champions League. So it has created a big problem, not only for us, but, like you mentioned with your team, Young Buffaloes, if they had a commitment that they had to honor at home, say maybe today or tomorrow, what were they going to do because they're not in the country? So to a large extent, CAF are to be blamed for this and also respective countries because in the case of Kaizer Chiefs were actually willing to go the extra mile to ensure that over and above the requirements that Morocco wanted, they can actually do more to ensure that when the players land in that country, everybody is negative. And they will ensure that if somebody is picked up to be positive while they're in the country, they will be isolated to ensure that they don't infect local people there. So they were actually willing to make sure that they do the right things. But as you know, CAF being CAF, the whole thing was a mess. And cancellations like this also cost clubs a lot of money because flights were booked, accommodation was booked, and all those kinds of things, other related logistics. So clubs are going to lose a lot of money because of these cancellations. And as to where or who is going to reimburse them is something which remains to be seen. But it's also interesting.
Yes, sorry, maybe to catch you. Do you think maybe there is a worry, would see at some point maybe this side of the continent was starting to dominate? I mean, not so long ago, Sundowns was the champions of the continent. Do you think maybe they're starting to be worried that if they're not careful, we maybe somehow dominate? Is it a way of trying to manipulate us? Maybe how would one assess this situation?
I was just talking to somebody earlier today saying that, in particular with the issue of Kaizer Chiefs and Casablanca and Morocco, unfortunately politics have come into play because, as you may know, South Africa and Morocco, have got frosty, relations because of the Western Sahara issue. Obviously Morocco has not come out to say that. I'm speculating here, but I sort of start to suspect that maybe politics have come into play here to try and frustrate the problem. And also you must remember, the CAF Congress where they are going to elect the CAF president is happening in Rabat. And one of the people who must be in that country is Patrice Motsepe himself. Is Morocco going to allow the Patrice Motsepe to enter the country? Because they can easily stop him for the same reasons that they stop Kaizer Chiefs from going in there. If they are not relaxing the restrictions that they have at the moment, and they have not relaxed them. You have the under 20 Cup of Nations that is going to take place in Morocco in a few weeks' time. South Africa is qualified for that tournament. What's going to happen to our under 20s if they are supposed to go to that tournament? So it is a bit of a problem, which I think leadership needs to sit and try and solve it, because in the next coming days or weeks, we may be sitting here with a serious problem. I cannot imagine a situation where Patrice Motsepe is a candidate for the CAF presidency, which is going to happen. The voting is going to happen in Rabat, and he cannot be allowed to enter the country. That will be something that has not been seen before.
All right. Quickly, just in the interest of time, I think time is against us. My producer is actually already chasing me to say time is over. Maybe looking at the pandemic quickly, maybe in 30 seconds or less than that. What impact has the pandemic had on the sport? Not only football at large, but we're talking, me and my colleague, to look at the sport at large on the continent. What has the pandemic done for the sport?
I think it has had a devastating impact on all sports. Just think of amateur sports. I mean, the guys are sitting at home. Amateur sports, for example, here in South Africa, amateur sports is only starting to play now. It's almost a year. People have not been getting any money and all those kinds of things. Professional sportsmen and women, in athletics here, the Olympics are coming. If they will actually take place, people have not been training. We saw that year with the PSL, when the PSL came back, the football was not that good because guys have not been training properly. The same with rugby when the Super Rugby came back. The same with cricket when the cricket came back. So it has had a devastating impact, but somehow, we have to find ways of how we are going to move forward in this so-called new normal that we are faced with now because of this COVID-19. This is the new way of doing things, and we have got to find ways of how we can play sports safely without people getting infected in this situation of COVID-19. But definitely, it has had a massive or devastating impact on sports, not only in South Africa or in Africa, but right across the world.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I think one or two, my colleague wanted to say something, but I think when time allows us, we'll once again get a chance to talk to you to find out some of also the ins and outs that are taking place on the African continent when it comes to preparations of major tournaments, the logistics, what is needed when a team needs to become one of the best in the country to represent the country. What are the logistics? What are the requirements for a specific standard to host the tournament? Just to get the ins and the outs and the expertise comes from you. Thank you very much for your time, for being with us, and we appreciate it. We keep in touch, of course, to update you also what's happening on our side, because I think we would appreciate if also you start reporting on what's happening on this side. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure.
My colleague is already using the nickname, saying thank you very much for your time.
Okay, cool.
All right, thank you very much. That was Mahlatse Mpahlela, award-winning journalist all the way from the Republic of South Africa, based in Pretoria, talking to us. He's a well-known sports reporter who cut across different sporting codes, talk about rugby, cricket, having been, of course, on the table with some of the well-known names at the CAF standard and FIFA standard. To give us an insight, he says the situation we have at hand with Young Buffaloes, it is a similar one to what they have in the Republic of South Africa with the Kaizer Chiefs. In a summary, he did say it is somehow being analyzed as a political move. A short break. When we come back, we'll be in the company of Pearl Dlamini, of course, through also Zoom as well, to talk about how she plans to begin her race for the VP position of the Olympic Commonwealth Games Association. After the break.
Bosimelane nine labakhulu ngiyacela bompembe nilamule indzaba yesikhwama samkhulu
Asikubulali lokumfana kwamajaha.
Ine sebenzile singaka.
The pillar of the family falls, leaving behind a divine legacy.
Abaphansi sebamkhombile. Kufanele kuthatha sikhwama samkhulu simelane.
Now the question is, who among the family members will take it over?
Kusobala ukuthi lesikhwama ngesakho.
Cha ma, basengangikhombi laba phasi.
Oh, nayi imihlolo nemambalo yasangana.
Instead of being inherited, it brings nothing other than sadness, anger,
Angiyoze mesangoma.
frustrations. All in one drama, Simanga, the entangled inheritance.
Welcome back on Temidlalo Live on Eswatini TV. Just finished talking to one of the well-known journalists in the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Mpahlela. Now we're trying to connect to talk to Pearl Dlamini, former Boxing Association president, a well-known, I would say, one of the few female we have in the sport industry that tries by all means to promote sports amongst women, to try and understand that it is a sport that also can be played by women. I'm in the company of Linda Dlamini. This interview is basically going to be based on your race to the VP position of the Olympic movement. Good evening, ma'am.
Ngivusela wena Fabrice, ngiyavusela mkhula wami.
Phemvula Nkosi, bavusela.
Yebo Dlamini. Ngozi.
Yes, I nearly said president because I think the last time we had this conversation, you were still the president of the Boxing Association. But nasikhuluma nyarongosi singabuka ukuthi at this point in time you have been listed amongst la VP la position ya VP under Olympic Commonwealth Games Association. Singasho ukuthi it's an area you are not much not used to, having worked with some of labakhona nyalo within the leadership, understanding the requirements of the position and all that. At some point we'll ask you, what do you think you are bringing on the table? But maybe just to look at the growth of the women sports in the country, especially athletes, because when you talk about you, Pearl Dlamini, the image that comes to many is the person who tries to push women's sport in the country. How far, where are we? We can talk about Pumulile and Ziniza, we can talk about the like of Boseyama, but where do you think we are as a country in terms of women's sports?
Okay, Ngiyabonga Fabrice. In terms of the growth of women in sports in the country, it's still slow growth, I must say, when compared to the male side. We have seen some improvements in women athletes, but akujabulisi so far. Like if you look at athletics, the number of athletes, the female athletes laba perform vele, we've only been able to shine through Pumulile so far and Abo Eric Sayama. We haven't seen other young girls coming through and nabo bangena lezinga lekuthi sebaqala kuba podium performance. Otherwise, when you come to the leadership side of women in sport, nakhona lapho Fabrice ngisho ukuthi the leadership side is still very weak as well. Men still dominate a number of positions. You will note we did a small survey sometime last year in December, where it indicates that out of 29 national federations, lakhona la Eswatini, we only have 28 women on the boards. And 4 other boards, but they've got 0 women kulama board abo. Meaning nangabe in a board 7 abantu. And then the 7 times 28 on our board, Flabes now 196 on our board members. Then of those 196 board members, we only have 28 which is around 14%. The uptake of women into leadership positions and also into sport in totality.
Besikhuluma na Linda Dlamini just before the show ukuthi maybe angathi kule level yama athletes, but ngingeva bathi even at the position level administration wise ikhona element ukuthi somehow you are bullied. Not to say, I'm not picking any names, but ikhona element ukuthi kukhona ukuthi vele you don't feel that much welcomed based on how the situation is maybe in the industry. Do you really feel you are bullied? Is it the case? You've been in the leadership and they think you did well. I think boxing did shine at some point, not shine per se, but we saw the growth of the sport. Is it true that maybe what causes the slowness of the growth is that somehow you are pushed in the corner, you don't lead as you please?
Yeah, ngeke ukubalekele lokho Fabrice kukhona kuliciniso, but I mean really women should learn to take up lama positions without any fear or intimidation by men. I mean, I've led a male dominated sport for the past 8 years being dealer neba bam labadvuna kuphela ka boxing, but bengikhona kusebenzana nabo. So ngicabanga ukuthi ke ngepersonality yakho umuntu, and then there are other contributing factors la khona la contribute to the low statistics esiwabona kona namuhla lekuthi bafati bangangena ma leadership positions. Another belief is the cultural belief that would say women are not given the cards to be in sports. Women are not supported by their families, and nalembo yakusaba ukuthi hey, by the way, it's a men's thing. We understand that njengoba bengangasaba ngena boxing athi after all vele imfuyo yabami labadvuna mina ngingenela njani lemo. As well kana sibuka government, there are no policies as strong la encourage women participation in sport. As well nasibuka ngisho bo funding kuda ukuthi funding, let's say less special that will address the women in sports. So manenga khula ama barriers, but vele bakhona ke labanye bafati ukuthi labanako lokuthi bayesaba to stand against men kuma elections, unlike Pearl. Maybe
my colleague has 1 or 2 questions. Before I go to him quickly, you've been nominated for the position of VP, Vice President for the Eswatini Olympic Commonwealth Games Association. Of course, I will get your reaction, but I think the main question is, what is Pearl Dlamini bringing on the table? So now I'm asking frankly, what are you bringing on the table?
Okay. Okay, maybe ngicela ukucorrect eqaleni Fabrice because eqaleni ukhuluma like it's a new thing kimi. Just to correct ukuthi it's not a new position by the way. I joined Soga as a board member 2012 to 2016 and then I was then elected vice president 2016 to 2020. Losho ukuthi this nomination will be my second nomination. Akusi nomination yeqala. Yes. Losho I'll be standing for my elections or VP for the second time. And yeah, what am I bringing to the table? Well, as you know, ukuthi vice president is like the right hand man. Or should I say the right-hand woman to the president. And in Nagolo, you need the female voice in the board. Someone who will ensure the women issues are actually addressed and they are prioritized. At that high level as a vice president, rest assured, Emma areas that address Emma women issues will be prioritized. And besides, getting anything for as a board. But the main contribution, of course, now Olympic is that of promoting the Olympism in the country by raising awareness and capacity building, like Fanautsisi and Nyalo, Fabrice, you will know now in Kula Wamdlamin, we haven't had a home. It's a home of sport for a long time, and one of the things that we got in Visaplung and Bengwarish. So Nyalo Nyachabula Loguti the IOC president was granted funding of $45,000 and we've started building our own headquarters lapha eNdasigalo. So ngaleyo headquarters leyo sesaba nelikhaya leFlema Sports. So kimi kakhulu ngikuthi manje ngingene ngi-oversee na i-project nayo manje ifike egqineni ngidawuthi noma sengiphumile kusasa ngisho ukuthi at least ngishiye abantu abamba sekhaya. But kunenge kakhulu ke vele le ngikwenako. You'll also know ke Fabrice ukuthi as vice president we-Olympic you are mandated to lead a team Eswatini to the major games, being Commonwealth Games and Olympic Games. So I led the team to Commonwealth Games Australia and develop a rapport and for that position, vice president, it is a position that is best given to women because you're in a position to mother these athletes. The team so it's better it's even worse because so I'm a Commonwealth Games ganye. So say kill the family nalabantwana bam. And already they are preparing for Tokyo 2020. So when they but to date I am still facilitating as their chief de mission for the Tokyo 2020 Games. Singakabuki ukuthi kwendekani kuma elections and kunama programs amaningi leswarana as the Olympic Committee lengifaka khona ma inputs ami and lengibheke ukuthi sizaqhubeka sikwende especially nje ku revival abama commission. You will know ukuthi I'm one of the lecturers la khona lana Eswatini kakhulu kufundisa nge-sports administration kanye nange ma women leadership programs. So letimvo letinye lengifisa sustain because the numbers esiwabonile kwanyalo mancane kakhulu. So siyafisa siqhubeke sifike egcineni.
Wow.
Nalokunye ke lokuningi lesingakhuluma but nje vele ngicabanga ukuthi there's a lot that lefuna sicecele singacecesiwe siyiphoda kasoka.
Quite interesting. Of course, my colleague has one or two questions. We talk about sport administration. Sonkumbuta ukuthi vele it's something that I had been saying that I want to do myself. Now that you've mentioned it, I need to go back and do it. I mean, one question to this candidate for VP, one or two maybe, or comment if there's a comment. Yes, because I know you want to say something.
Khona mhlambe umbuto lengabuta wona ukuthi sitsingani kahle as a country kufika lapho khona sports sesiphila ngaso sports as professional more especially nabosisi labanengi more especially emakhaya sebangenile badlala kuma sports sitsingani kahle.
Yenkosi yatlesingako lana kakhulu is that kufuneka ukuthi live koqala li prioritize women in sports. That's the first thing that's ngasive elwend. So long as singa prioritize nje bantu besifazane temidlalo kude sitafika khona. So the creation of a women commission in the country is very vital and ngiyajabula ukuthi sasibonile eminyakeni ophelile sabaqala ba sports council bamasibisana iyoga bawenda lawo ma workshops asikube nalaba nominate wabo. And then the creation of a women in sports forum kube nje namhla sihleti nje sibomake sithi asasixoxe ngetindzaba lekuphathelene nathi. So lokho kutasisithi athi nalo beka nefee nalo beka athi ava ngathi hey mina ngakufonsela emvutati khanza seka khona ukuthi angene. And then we also need to have even the sports bill. We have to ensure ukuthi the sports bill esifuna ukusiphathisa siya-enforce ukuthi at least there must be 30% women representation across all leadership positions. As you will know ukuthi IOC vele ukhulumela ukuthi akube na 30% webafati labakhona emabhodini. So nathi silive so lonke singa-enforce kulama bill ethu nakama-police ethu sitaba ne-challenge ukuthi kwendeke lokhu because kube zobe sik-enforce ngekweqiniso bese nakafika lamabhodi lamasha bese zithi how come angayimithile target lefanele ngabe niyimithile and then bahambe bayobafuna labafati bakhona next bangeni and then ase-parliament ke kungasita ukuthi ke vele kube khona i-funding vele strictly committed wena Dlamini to fund ama-women in sports initiatives. Lokunye ke lokumqoka lokungasisita ukuthi let's celebrate the small wins zakhona from bafati. Lokusho ukuthi labo women in sports day ababuye babe khona and we want men to start celebrating us babe nathi sibone ukuthi bayasijabulela and bayafuna ukusibona sithuthuka nathi and bayafuna ukusibona sibambisana because eqinisweni asikete itobula labo babi asikete itolwa nabo but we are saying sifuna kubambisana nani and sifuna kusebenza kanye nani sikhona ukuthuthukisa imidlalo because there is challenge abafatini.
But maybe ngathathi nje Fabrice siya kuma Olympic Games. Do we stand a chance in lalama ama-athletes lesawahambisa ayosimelela ezilive sinayo le chance nawubuka lokuthi ama-sports lakithi avaliwe abakhona lokujima?
Hey Dlamini ilikhuni leyo and ivisana buhlungu kakhulu. You will note ukuthi kufika COVID nje bambana bethu basazama ukuqualify lokuthi sikhuluma nje kusede umfana wala Eswatini lokhonile qualify ema Olympic Games. We are hoping ukuthi la amanye ema remaining qualifiers but okhona mhlambe ukuthi ba qualify. Liqiniso lithi sinayo le potential. Now buka bosibusiso mathenjwa ikhona le potential. Now buka bothabiso Dlamini itolo lokube sibefunza ngayo emaphepheni ukuthi the world has ranked in the 20th boxer in 69 kg category. Lokusho ukuthi there is potential kulabo bantwana labo nalabanye ke labakhona but ke ngalendlela kwendeka ngayo so far kuyesabisa ngoba vele abakhoni lokujima kahle abayitholi nale support but we are hoping ukuthi lokuncane ekujima labakwendako le nalabakhona khona kumbe tokhona ukuthi kubazame ngaleyo ndlela leyo because we have heard ukuthi itovuleka le program masinyane hoping and crossing our fingers ukuthi by April May ngosami kube sekwengqele 999 for COVID noma ube sotholakele le vaccine because then only then they can be in a position to travel. So far vele they are limited to train locally and to use my local resources but le funding ngekuba supporter from IOC nakithi ngala ka iyoga ekhona and siyafuna ukuthi bamphana baphumelele babe khona le midlalo emikhulu.
All right, in the interest of time, Ngosi, ndawucela ukujuba le interview, but one thing I will tell you that this interview was recorded. So if you happen to win the elections and you become the VP, we'll play it again and then we'll say what you said in the interview, you are going to be held accountable if you don't deliver. Thank you very much for joining us, and I think it's a well inside information for everything you had to do and to say at this point in time, to say, I've been through this and this is where I want to take the sport industry in the country.
Yeah, Bonga Fabrice, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pel Dlamini. That is a former Eswatini Boxing Association running this time around for the second time. Of course, coming from him, she had to make a short correction to say this is not the first time running for this position. There is a lot at stake. There is a lot I want to offer. Otherwise, a short break. When you look at some of the things pertaining to some of our athletes, sport personnel outside the country, how are they doing? In this question, we're talking about James Pennington, who is based in the Republic of South Africa. When you come back, there's a long debate between me and Dlamini pertaining to what's happening in the current football industry. After the break.
Hello golfers, and welcome to another edition of Tea Time Tips. Today's first tip will be a beginner's tip, someone who's never played the game before, and they'll often wonder how to grip the golf club. So the best way to grip a golf club is if you're right-handed, you start with your left hand on top, and if you're left-handed with your right. But I'm right-handed, so I put my left hand on top with my thumb going down the shaft. If I then lift it up and push my index finger out, I then connect my small pinky finger in and put it down. By the time the club is down, both of your thumbs should be pointing down the shaft, like so. That then gives you the right grip in order to swing the club with the most efficiency. You don't want to be holding it too far or too close together. This grip is made famous by Tiger Woods, amongst many others, and it's the most common grip in golf. The second thing that I'd like to show you is just the posture, the correct posture, how to stand when you're addressing to hit the golf ball. So we don't want to be too bent and sitting or too upright and straight. The best way to get the correct posture would be to stand straight up tall, bend from the hips over, and then flex your knees just a little bit. Wherever your arms hang and your hands meet, that's where you'd grip the club. So if I stand up straight, bend over, bend my knees just a little bit, my arms hang there, and that's where I'd grip the club. I hope that helps you in your journey to play golf, and let me know if you need any more advice. Hello golfers, and welcome back to Tea Time Tips. This is a little bit more advanced tip for those that already play the game of golf, and it will focus on chipping. Chipping is where we're around the green, not on the green, but not far away, that we're hitting a long shot, and we need to chip or lob the ball onto the green and let it roll towards the flag. Often I see golfers, when they practice their chipping, they ask me, should they use their hands, should they be straight, use their wrists, and what's the correct way to do it? Because although there are many correct ways and ways that you can chip, there's certainly an easier one where the answer isn't using just your hands and your wrists or keeping your arms too straight, but using your whole body together. So a nice way to practice this, if you're already playing golf, is just to take your towel from your golf bag, put it under your arms like so. This will keep you connected. We'll then hit a chip shot with the towel staying under your arms. You go back and through without letting the towel fall. If you go back and it falls, or through and it falls, then you know that you're disconnected. So it's a really nice feeling of just a way to get the club and the body moving correctly together. So as I said, put it under your arms, back and through. And if I were to demonstrate to you one, that ball's come out nice and high. The towel has stayed under my arms, and I've hit the shot how I wanted to. If you need any more help, please feel free to contact me. Thank you very much.
Amazing, isn't it? Looking at how this is one of our well-known professional golfer, James Pennington, based in the Republic of South Africa, just taking time to show us some of the tips that you can rely on if you're a beginner, if you want to extend the sport. Quickly, Tamini, before we move on, this is what we need. Don't keep the talent to yourself. Share the tips, and we all want to know about the sport. We all want to grow in the industry.
Fabrice, ngicabanga vele ukuthi abasita kakhulu abafuna ukudlala le sport ama youngsters more especially wathi ukuthi invuke galuva uyibamba njani awuyibambi nje ngalitandla ngathi ubambe noma ngayini kune tip yakhona lithume kakhulu ke ku-Tiger Woods nguye lo luthume kakhulu ngalobamba le galuva ukuthi uvula lesandla lesibese sofaka lo uyabuya uyayibamba le mvuke yakho. So ngicabanga ukuthi kuJamie Pennington maneng eMaswati because he's a professional golfer maneng eMaswati lamancane letawufunza.
All right, Mr. Dlamini, as he's seated here, he's been well, how do I put this? He's been close to the issue that is currently ongoing with young buffaloes. He's been talking to the reliable sources, and his sources in the past have been reliable. And I mean, the issue that is being faced by young buffaloes, but maybe before I give him a platform quickly before he speaks, the team now is in Tunisia as we speak. They arrived in the hours of afternoon, Monday afternoon, around 2-3 there, and their game is expected tomorrow, 5 p.m. local time, 4 p.m. Tunisian time, 5 p.m. local time. That's actually for 24 hours after arrival. Something I'm a bit, maybe, I don't know, in my opinion, against. How do you play after 24 hours? We've seen Champions League. A team arrives on Tuesday, they play on Monday, they play on Wednesday. Why arrive on Tuesday? Where there have been delays. We know why the delays were there. Issues of planes and COVID. I mean, what do you take of this issue? I know it's going to be expanded on Thursday. The game will be played. We'll have the results. But I mean, I know you've been doing research. I know you've been talking to reliable sources. I know you've connections even in Tunisia. You've talked to people. What's the issue at the end? When they get, I mean, what's the cause of the mess?
Fabrice ngicabanga ukuthi njengoba social ukuthi bafikile eTunis bakhona khona and njengoba usho ukuthi bayasho la bahambena le team ukuthi baphethe kahle eTunisia bafike bemukeleka kahle bahleli kahle akufanani nalamanye mave lapho khona utawufika uthi emva kwesikhathi awuthola ukudla uthola ini bafike bahleli kahle indzabe Young Buffaloes Fabrice Young Buffaloes yakhumbula ukuthi last Sunday beyidlala neEtoile du Sahel emavuso yadliwa nga 2-1 bekumele ke ibuyisele inyawo eTunisia iyodlala igame le game bekumele idlale itolo ngeSunday eTunisia unfortunately akendeki lokho Fabrice ngetizathu ukuthi le imithetho yaseTunisia le COVID tonke letinvo leto tithi in fact la kithi besathi ukuthi ngu72 hours kwase kuyashintsha kwaba ngu48 hours kani le ma test lendiwe ngilabo eBuffalo sathi thina ukuthi ngu72 hours kani lencwadi lephumile isho late lokuthi ngilo 48 hours yahamba Young Buffaloes yathina South Africa yatholakala ukuthi kumele ibuye Eswatini itophenze yende ema test kabusha itolo ke Fabrice bahambile baya eTunisia seyendiwe tonke letincwadi leto iFootball Association yakithi Eswatini seyichumene na Football Association yaseTunisia tasetiyendiwa letinvo leto tahamba luckily ke Fabrice iYoung Buffaloes ihamba seyikhona goalkeeper wabo Nhlanhla Kwebo so khona Phiwo Dlamini labe bangekho ku first leg lakhaya nazilala lakhaya unfortunately coach wabo still akekho because siyakhumbula ukuthi 14 days akapheli since atholakala ukuthi unemkhuhlane COVID-19 tonke letinvo leto ke Fabrice tendeka letinvo leto iYoung Buffaloes nayigcina kudlala Sunday lakhaya ku first leg ayikaze yayithinza ibhola
ngiyalapho ke master because this is me we will have other logistics when they come they tell us and then I think I don't want to sit and say predict, but to me, with what we just said, you and I, to me on paper, it is impossible for someone to win. If you didn't touch the ball, which means maybe their first training session is this afternoon.
Yeah.
This evening, actually. And how is the body mind? How is the structure of the players physical? We should see in 7 days. Nkani bakara gym. Skumanga team njenyalo yona 6 times but for the gym. So automatically, would it be hard to already concede a defeat in the minds now?
Remember Fabrice ukuthi nabagcina kudlala on Sunday the following day bekugcina ukuthi bayokwenda lama test bekune badlali bebangadlali Sunday ngikhuluma ngaNhlanhla Gwebe ngikhulume ngaphiwa ngikhulume ngabo Ali abadlala nga Sunday since then itolo bekuphela liviki bekuphela 7 days namuhla langa les 8 kusasa kube langa les 9 ngikhasi batocala ukuthinza ibhola ekseni batawuvuka yes bakwendo lo batravelile labantu baye South Africa eOrtambo airport baphinze babuya back to Eswatini that's 4 hours kusuka la uhamba uyele 4 hours kubuya 8 hours
and
the cost then uyasuka futhi Eswatini eOrtambo uyagibela futhi uya eTunisia that's like 15 hours uyabona awukayithenzi ibhola awukajimi mentally vele ngicabanga ukuthi dinenge letinvo iYoung Buffaloes ledibane nato lesi simo lengicabanga ukuthi iCAF lekuzinga ukuthi the new president akhona lokhu address unfortunately because we are very unfortunate because these teams they are not African teams bona bakhona ukuthola iprivate jet bavele ba fly straight bedela thina sikhona kwenda lo travel about 15 hours.
The time will be of course expanded on Thursday for the Elibode Eswatini to talk about this, but quickly before Ngivode Dlamini I want to say this. Kushito nje ukuthi from Thursday bekufuna bathola indiza yaseQatar then yabheka ama rules bagcina bathola Air France yona yathi thing 48 hours all the things that Dlamini just said, you know, coming going the in and out luhambo kuhamba babhizi baba in and out, but Dlamini, now we're talking about the issue at hand. In your position as an analyst, an expert we have in the country, what can you expect from Buffaloes as VAR tomorrow's results?
Fabrice, it's a mountain to climb.
True.
And nawubuka le group la lebadraw kuwe because kube ne draw namuhla. Iya Buffaloes if itawuchubeke yodibana nabo Sfaxien. Sfaxien sake safika ke la nembabane solo. So ngicabanga ukuthi it's a mountain to climb for Young Buffaloes ledliwe la khaya nyalo idibana naletinfo letingcinamba ledibane nato bawudlala away in a bigger pitch. So ngicabanga ukuthi kutaba lukhulu kakhulu, but I'm praying ukuthi at least loyo one note sikhona kuwina.
It's a mountain to climb. The game is tomorrow at 5 p.m. local time at Olympic Stade de Sousse. That is in the capital city of Tunis, where the two giants face each other. He said it's a mountain to climb. When you watch Eswatini TV on Thursday, he will be in the company of my colleague Petezo MC, where details the ins and out. Maybe there will be even a chance to talk to a club representative, delegations, head of the delegations. Utsimbambamba, the results we'll be having tomorrow is a result of what happened in the game itself. The chances are there, but mentally, are they ready? Body-wise, what's the current situation of the players? A lot is at stake. I will summarize it with one word that let me just say. It is a mountain to climb. Asal